In case you missed it, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Jennifer Jacobs and Rachel Foster to discuss their Safe at Home mission at AHIP, a Virginia-based nonprofit that helps keep people in their homes by making critical repairs. All of us at the Go With John show value our community, so we joined forces with AHIP to promote the Community Match Challenge, and I'm so thrilled to announce that we helped raise $6.7 thousand for those in need of a safe, warm, dry home. Thank you to everyone who donated. If you'd like to support Safe at Home, go to ahipva.org and listen to the episode with Rachel and Jen, and visit our show website at gowithjohn.com. I'm sitting down with Ed Shudell. He is the Director of Social Media for RGS Title and the Business Development Manager for Long & Foster. We're going to have a conversation about the ins and outs of title work, how it can differ from building a home as opposed to buying a home from a previous owner, and of course, true to the Go With John show, Ed will share stories about the journey to successfully reaching goals and how being yourself gets you farther than you may expect. Stay tuned. So I'm here today with Ed Shudell with RGS Title. Ed, thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, John.
Hey, so an interesting thing is we're in a pandemic world, and I talked in episode 1 about how we built this studio, and because of the pandemic, we could not use it, so we are doing things remotely, and people are asking me, where are you recording? So I'm going to start saying today we're at the Long & Foster office in McLean. Your RGS office is just right down the hall, right here on Beverly Road. So when I was in the office working every day pre-pandemic, you and I were bumping into each other in the hallways and things like that.
Exactly.
So Ed, you've got an interesting story. So tell us what you do at RGS Title for a second, and then I want to talk about some of the other cool things you've done in your life, and then we'll come and tell some title stories.
Yeah, John. So I'm Director of Social Media for Long & Foster Settlement Services, and we're part of the Long & Foster family. So I help realtors with their social media, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, help build and brand themselves.
Right.
So that's one of the roles I have. And then the other role I have is business development. I'm based out of here in McLean.
Right.
I cover McLean, Great Falls, and Arlington. So my job is to build the relationships like we have with realtors to show them what we can do, and more importantly, what you all need. I listen to the realtors, we help them and show them what our company can do, and then help them be successful with their clients.
Very cool. Sounds like a fun job.
It is fun. I've been in the office since the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Nonstop, not complaining. That's a good thing. So
Right.
we thank you and everyone else for their business. Long days, but hey, it's helping people reach the American dream.
Right.
And I'm seeing that more and more. People are so happy that they can get a home in such a hot market.
Right. Cool. Well, so tell us, how did you get here? So what are some of the things you did before you got into the title business?
Yeah, I've been in the title business 23 years.
Wow.
And it seems like maybe just a few years ago.
Oh
I first got out of college, and I was a teacher. And for a little while with Fairfax County Public Schools.
Right.
And I started at Pymmet Hills in adult education. So I always felt if you can teach, you can preach, you can sell.
Right.
And then I went on to VCU, where I headed up. It was actually in the late 90s. Their internet outreach to recruit students. And so I worked at the College of Admissions, or the School of Engineering, and I was an NCAA compliance officer. And I also worked at the Medical College of Virginia at MCV to help recruit students as well. And made the transition, came up here, and I worked with my sister, Teresa, and everyone thinks Teresa hired me, and she actually didn't. It was a part-time job because it was summer teacher, and summers were off. And my job was to get payoffs, to call all the lenders, get the payoffs, help out. And it was one of the founders of the company. And I was getting ready to go back to school, and he walked down the hall and he said, "You're really good at this. Would you like to do this full time?" And I had I enjoyed teaching, but it was time to do something different. I said, okay, and I was hired.
Very good.
And I went down the hallway and said, "Teresa, I'm working here full time."
Oh my gosh.
That's what she found out.
What did she think about that?
She was happy.
Yeah.
When you work with family, you work all the time.
Right.
But I enjoy that, and she's excellent at what she does. And I just enjoy this business.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people. My mom Lillian Jorgensen is a realtor, and I think when you're in a business that's all consuming, it's there's a lot of families that get sucked into it. I have 12-year-old twin boys, and they're already talking about going into real estate. So it's crazy. So before, but you also were on TV, right? You had
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So a few years back, one of my
It's a few years.
It was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was New Year's Eve, and everyone has a resolution, and I jokingly said, I'm going to get on TV. And everyone's like, what? I said, yeah, my goal is to get on TV. And 4 months later, I was on Craigslist looking for furniture. I'm really into mid-century furniture.
Right.
And I was clicking around, and I saw this category that said TV, film, and editing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I wonder what that's about.
Right.
And I click on, and one of the first posts was from the Food Network.
Right.
And it said, are you a bad cook? Do you know anyone who's a bad cook? Nominate them or nominate yourself.
Right.
I thought, well, I'm not a good cook. So so this is what I wrote, just like this. I wrote, if I were to be on Iron Chef America, there's only 3 people I could do battle with.
Right.
Colonel Sanders, General Sal, and Chef Boyardee. And I wouldn't win. 2 weeks later, the phone rang. It was New York, Food Network people, and they interviewed me as I'm in the car.
Right.
It was go, go, go. I had done radio prior in graduate school at WRVQ Q94 Richmond, and I got that job because I won a contest. And I just knew from then, you got to talk. And then, it was 3 months of auditions.
Yeah.
3 months of auditions. I'm like every other day over the phone. And one of the best questions I think I've ever been asked, and I always use to this day, is, John, they said, tell us something about you we wouldn't guess just by looking at you. And this was with the cameras. And I told them I'm ambidextrous. And they said, what does that mean? I said, I can slice, dice, and chop with either hand.
Yeah.
So, and then I made the show, and I got kicked off after the first episode.
All right. So you were clearly not the worst.
Exactly. They said I was too good. So,
oh my gosh.
But it was fun. It was a good run.
Awesome. Yeah. And then what else did you do? That was you did some other stuff that was TV related.
Yes. BMW was launching the new M3 at the time. This is 10 years ago, and I really wanted to go drive it, and it was an event. Pushed, asked, called, got invited, and then one day we're at the track. Well, actually, the night before, we had a dinner. So there's 40 of us at the Nürburgring in Germany, the famous Nordschleife. And everyone's going around the table, and they're asking them their favorite car.
Yeah.
What's your favorite car? So, guys talking this M5, next guy's 911 Turbo, Ferrari.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wealthy guys. They get to me, and I said, my XB. And the table of 40 people just got quiet. And they all look, and they go, XB? I said, yeah, my Scion XB. RGS title had little box mobiles.
Yeah.
I said, why would you pick that car? I said, I can fit in it. I can park it anywhere in D.C.
Yeah.
It gets great gas mileage. And you know what? My skills are better than the car. But on the high-end cars, I seriously doubt anyone here can exceed the performance of the car. Next day, we're at the Nordschleife. We're walking by the BMW testing building. And I come around the corner, and there's all these TV or movie cameras and productions and booms and lights. I thought, wow, they're filming a commercial. And Martin Berkman with BMW M Products, he goes, Edward, yeah, come here. I'm like, what? He's like, everyone else go in. Now, my name is German-Swiss. We say Schudel, but it should be Schudel. So he's like, Schudel, come here. And he said, this is Miss So-and-so. This is her production team. I said, okay. And he goes, we want you in a commercial. I said, why me? He goes, you're honest.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, how so? He goes, because no one admits to liking a Scion XB. And then I did videos, and they used my voice for the launch of the car.
That's great.
And it was a lot of fun.
I think, and there's a really important lesson in there. If you just be yourself and be honest with folks, sometimes good things will happen.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone has a story, and you got to let them know your story so they know who you are, and you got to learn their story.
Right. So if you had just said something like everybody else said, you would have just been part of the crowd.
I would have been another guy there.
Right.
But they really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was fun.
That's good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Cool. A lot of folks think that building a custom home is a complicated and arduous process. It doesn't have to be. At Stanley Martin Custom Homes, we have the process down to a science. we will bring you through the buying, design, and building phase one step at a time. Head on over to webuildonyourlot.com and check us out. Reach out to us if you want to get started on the path to your very own Stanley Martin custom home. So let's talk a little bit about title work. So we're, really my whole sphere, I think, that's listening to this show is they're either homeowners or they're in, real estate, or they're going to build a new home. There's a construction component. So tell us a little bit. I think a lot of people wonder, what does a title company do? Right. What does a title company do?
So our primary goal is to provide title insurance, right? But we want to make sure that the title is clear. The chain of title, when you buy a home, is something that doesn't have a break in the chain. You know who's owned it before. Are there liens? Are there judgments? Or if you have your survey, or there's encroachments on the property. And for the largest investment for 99% of the population you're going to make, you want to have title insurance. I mean, you have now, with all the cyber crime and the hacking and all the things going on, that protects you, that title insurance.
Right. But so you're not just providing title insurance. You guys really pull the whole, you have to pull the whole transaction together and get it settled, right?
You're absolutely right, John, and that's right. So what it is to bring both parties, right, the buy side, the selling side, to make sure we get in all the payoffs, the loans, right, the HOA. There's so much to it. People think, well, they just sat down, or they do it remotely, or we do it outside with the social distancing. Oh, this is easy. There's so much that goes behind it. Each attorney runs one of the RGS title offices, or Sage Title, any of the sister companies. She or he will review the title to make sure everything looks good. If it doesn't, then we talk and we figure out, okay, what can we do to underwrite this and make it good?
And I think one of the things that folks may not realize is that when you go through a real estate transaction and you buy and sell a house, you're kind of on the front line with your realtor, or if you're representing yourself, you're on the front line of the transaction. And you get all the terms negotiated on the contract, and you're like, wow, that was a lot of work. We got it done. Then you normally have to go through some sort of inspection period, right? And then at the same time, the contract goes over to the title company, and the title company has to you've got to get the deal closed. Right?
We're the conductor of the symphony.
Right. And I think there's lots and lots and lots of things that come up that your average buyer doesn't even realize, problems in the transactions that you guys solve as you approach settlement, without the buyer or the seller ever even realizing that problem was there.
And in such a busy market that it is now, as you know, it's also making sure to get the lenders to be on time, to get us what we need so we can finish that settlement and get that settlement done. So we're an advocate. We're neutral. We don't represent either side, but we want to bring those pieces together.
Yeah. So you're working with the bank.
Yes.
You're making sure the money shows up.
Yes.
You're reviewing the contract and making sure all the terms of the contract are executed properly. So, for example, if there's a seller subsidy or things like that, you have to make sure all those details are there. You prepare all the documents. You have to get the HUD out to everybody 3 days before settlement. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. And you're doing, how many settlements are you guys doing every month?
Right.
In just the McLean office.
I mean, now you're looking at 50, 60 a month.
Right. So that's probably 3 a day, right? Business days. Right?
Yes. And as people know, and that's conservative. I mean, it is. And we're happy to do it. It's a lot of work. And if it looks easy, that means it's done really well.
And you guys do a great job at that, actually.
Thank you.
So let's talk about what the title insurance component is. So how does the whole title insurance come about? So you have to get, how do you get the detail from the title? How does that work?
Well, so there's the the abstracted title. So our people in the abstract department, we have a whole dedicated department. They go and they pull it. They look at it, they research it. Once they have it and that's done, then they send it to the individual office, to the attorneys, and then it's reviewed by counsel.
So I was just gonna. So in the abstract, those are abstractors, right? They're called abstractors, right?
Right.
And an abstractor actually goes to the courthouse or electronically goes to the courthouse.
Yes.
Right. And depending on which jurisdiction you're in, and they pull and they look up in the land records the property that you're working on, and they pull all the detail from that's recorded on that land record.
Correct, and you can go 1, 2 owners back, and that could be a lot in the chain of title, and go far back. It's important to do.
And some of the really interesting things are, if you actually read some of this stuff, which I've done,
yes,
some of these things are recorded and written 100 years ago, and you need a English degree to understand.
An old English almost, right?
Yeah. But so the abstractor gets all this detail. They send it to the attorney at the title office, and then it's reviewed to make sure that the person that's selling the home has legal title.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And then that same detail goes to a title insurance company.
Yes.
Right? And then a title insurance company will issue
the underwriter.
The underwriter. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So the underwriter with the lender would get all that detail.
Well, we have an underwriter because we're providing the title insurance. Right?
I got you.
So when you go to buy a property, you have to get lenders insurance, title insurance. That you have to. It will say on the CD and the closing disclosure optional, but you want to get it. Remember, if they're getting it, the lender, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's really two different underwriters involved in a transaction. You've got the title underwriter, and then you have the underwriter at the bank. The lender's underwriter.
They're looking at to make sure everything's clear, and there are no liens and no judgments, and things do pop up.
Yeah.
So when they do,
absolutely they do.
As you know.
They absolutely do. Yeah. So one thing that's interesting is, and I think this is really important for the folks out there, kind of in my Stanley Martin sphere, who are not working with one of our title companies, in that when everybody's talking about title and you're working with a real estate agent, and the real estate agent has picked a settlement company like ABC Title or whatever they are, and the realtor tells the buyer client, don't worry, they're going to review the title and they're going to issue title insurance. Well, when you're building a new home and you want to do a build, there's a whole different process that we go through on the Stanley Martin side to review the title. And this is really important. Probably the most important thing I'm going to mention in this episode, I think, is that when you're building a house, you want a civil engineer to review the title, because you talked about encroachments being recorded on the title. Well, what does that mean, right? It could be an easement. Right. It could be a
mechanic's lien.
A mechanic's lien on the property. It could be a lack of right of way. There could be a property where there's no legal way to get to the property, and your underwriter is not really looking for those things. Your underwriter is looking for, does the seller own the property legally? Right. Are there any judgments on the property? Are there any liens on the property? Are there things on the financial side that are going to impact it, and the ownership side and the legal title? Whereas when you're building a new home, you want to look at what kind of things are recorded on that title that would impact buildability. Like there could be a homeowners association recorded on the property that maybe nobody was even aware of, and I've seen that. I've seen all sorts of crazy things come up.
What are some things, John, you've seen, and you're an expert at what you do with that? What's something that comes to mind, like a nightmare, like, oh no?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that comes up are easements that people were not aware of, or lack of right of way. Those are probably the two biggest things that I see. I think that there are sometimes there's a right-of-way easement that goes through a property for somebody else to get to their property, and you can't see it. And I think your average person who goes out and looks at a lot, especially when there's not even a house there, and they go, wow, this is great, we can build a house here. And when you start scratching the surface, you find all these things. I think another thing that comes up is that we discover that there's no power in the area of that particular lot, right? And then there's a lack of easement through a neighboring property to bring power to a house. So I think it's
important.
It is really
Very
important. It's all the detail that goes behind building the house, right? So the title search and the title insurance, I think just high level kind of takeaway is, if you're building a house, it's a different process, and you want to make sure you work with your builder to have that title reviewed. before your study period ends or your ability to get out of that transaction. You want to make sure you can build on that lot. And from your perspective, when you're just handling a regular transaction, you guys are going to handle all the detail, and really the buyer doesn't have to worry.
Correct. And they got to go with somebody like you. Go with John. Go with somebody who's an expert and excellent and has the experience. And go with a title company like RGS Title that's been in the business. Ask how many times has that attorney done a settlement.
Right.
You'd be surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
we have people in our company who've done over 15, 20,000 settlements.
It's amazing.
It really is. So, and the new folks learn, and they're a second chair, and they learn from these people
Yeah.
as well. But that's important.
Yeah. Well, in this business, there's no substitute for experience.
You're absolutely
None.
correct.
You can go to all the training in the world, but until you get out in the field and start getting some scratches on your helmet, you
You're right.
So let's talk a little bit about, I guess I'd be curious to hear, what are some of the things, so you guys, I know as a real estate professional, I've been at multiple settlements where, you know, everything feels great and you get to the settlement table and all of a sudden there's some problem that just shows up. Total surprise, right?
Right,
What are,
right.
you know, so you know, now you guys at the title company, you're wearing a lot of different hats. It's really amazing. And I don't think anybody realizes it. And,
Thank you.
you know, when I'm talking with you and other folks about all the little things that come up, it makes me realize how many different hats you have to wear. Well, one hat is, now you've done all the work, you've done all the research, you've got the money there from the lender, the seller's there ready to sign, the buyer's there ready to sign, everybody's sitting at the table, everybody's happy, and all of a sudden Teresa or a settlement agent comes in and says, well, we have an opportunity. What are some of the things that are showing up at settlement that surprise you?
And right now, because of the pandemic, and these are, it's a nice surprise, but we have a lot of young couples. They're moving out of Washington, D.C. They're coming into Virginia.
Yeah.
They're young, and they didn't tell anyone they just got married, or they got married 3 months ago.
Right.
And that's no big deal. You know, that we can change, but we're seeing that. We can fix the deed and correct it, but we got to make sure the lender knows, and everything's done. That we're seeing, again, we're starting to see people say they can get a survey, but that's optional.
Right.
And it's up to them. I would highly recommend it. And they don't get it, and then they come back later and say, "Oh, the neighbor said the fence was my fence is on their yard, so
Right.
they should go ahead and get the survey." It's actually been, people are so excited in this hot market that I really have seen less surprises now than we did pre-pandemic.
Wow.
I think they're just so happy to get the house. People want to get it done.
Yeah, I think people in general are much more forgiving right now.
Yes.
Much more forgiving than they were before. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It cuts both ways.
Well, what we do, John, to answer surprise questions, every one of our offices, we don't want a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we really spend the time way in advance. And if there is something that pops up, we let them know. But, it's been good.
Yeah. I'm John Jorgensen, and if you want to learn more about buying a home or selling your existing home, contact us through the show. We work with an incredible network of professionals who can help you get through the process smoothly. Again, that's gowithjohn.com. So one of the things as a real estate agent that's really difficult and very stressful for me when I approach settlement is you get to the settlement table, and if I'm representing the seller and we get there and I hear, wow, the money's not been released from the lender yet. Now, how often is that happening in these days?
You'll have a lot of lenders that will say they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
All right. And they'll say, yes, we're going to go today, the 21st at 3 p.m. And then you get an email, oh, can we push it to a little later?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean a little later? A little later to that, because they're not getting it out, the money
Right.
out. We don't, if we go to closing and they're socially distanced now and we don't have the money, we let everybody know.
Right.
We got to know. That's important.
Right. So literally you can sign everything.
It's an incomplete settlement
Yeah,
until the
because
money.
it's not really technically, it's not the house, the deal isn't done until the money shows up.
Right. But
And then you have to record the deal at the courthouse, right? You have to go to the courthouse either electronically or
right, we e-file.
and file to finalize the transaction.
What I'll tell you when you say surprise is You got to look at who you're getting your loan with.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's important. I agree.
You've got to
deal with a reputable lender.
Right. And what kind of expectations that they have. Will they get it done? And you just got to make sure and keep on those people to make sure the money comes through. Now, what happens? We're seeing this is a surprise. We're seeing more split settlements. Okay. So what does
that mean?
Yeah. So in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the buy side, the buyers, have the right to say which title company they want it to go to. Right. And that's the law. They have a right. Yeah. Now, a lot of times, agent A has the listing, let's say, let's say they're here in McLean, say, no, I want to go to XYZ. That's who I use for my settlements. Now you have the buy side. They say, well, I want to go to RGS. Now you have two different title companies working for a settlement, right? Now, if XYZ company doesn't do their job, they drop the ball, okay? We had one the other day. Here's a surprise. Yeah. They didn't tell us. They said the money was in. Yeah. We said we want proof of that. They emailed us. We have the money. Yeah. They didn't have the money.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that transaction.
You are. Yeah. So, right? But, that was one of the biggest nightmare surprises I've seen in over a year.
Yeah, because we went to settlement and we thought the whole thing was done. And then the next day we find out that the money wasn't there and that the house hadn't really been sold. It was quite a stressful situation.
And you couldn't get a hold of them,
right?
Yeah. Right? You can get a hold of us. So, and this is not to sound like it's a commercial, but we take each settlement and see it as if it was our own.
Right. So let's go through the steps, because there's a lot of whenever I'm having a conversation with someone, it triggers thoughts in my head, right? So there's two things I want to kind of circle back to. One is the survey, because it kind of ties into the title report. We'll come to that in a second. What are the steps in the settlement process with regard to sitting down at the table, signing, getting the money, recording? When is the house? Can you just walk us through for the layman out there that may not?
So you get a contract. You have a contract. Both parties agree. Congratulations. Get the contract. You, John, you send over the contract to us, right? And then we open a file. Then we start working on it. And then we say to you and your clients, what's the date you're looking, what time frame here, okay? And we pick a date. And then we start getting payoffs on the mortgages. Right, a large majority of people are going to have a mortgage. We got to get payoffs. Then we got to get HOA if there's HOA information. Right, we got to look at the taxes, and then we get that rolling. Right. Okay.
And then you get to settlement day.
Right. And then you do the search, and the search has to be done. The search then has
title
to be
insurance,
and the search has to be reviewed. Yeah. Right. And then if the title is clear, and then we get to settlement. Now we're doing, because of pandemic, in 2020 we're doing socially distanced settlements for everyone's safety,
and we're going to be continuing 2021.
Right.
Yeah. So just for all the folks listening out there, we're actually recording this on December, I think we're the 21st today.
Yes.
And by the time you hear it, it's going to be February, March or something. So
great.
So we'll still be socially
distancing.
We
will. And that's for everyone's protection.
Yeah.
And people are happy about that.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. So that's the process.
So we go to the settlement table.
Yes.
Everybody signs. The money comes in from the lender.
Well, money comes in first. We want to make sure the money is.
But if it doesn't, then
I'm teasing you.
Thanks.
Right. Yes, I interrupt you. So the money comes in. The money's there. Everyone signs, and then it's time to record. And in Virginia, you have up to 48 hours. You being a title company to record. We do it same day. Now, a lot of people have to keep in mind with the pandemic, the courthouse is not open to the public. Their folks are working in Fairfax, Arlington. They all, Prince William, they all do a great job, but things are slowing down, and their hours are a little less. So then we e-file. Okay, we're a bonded license to do that, and then it's electronically recorded. What's great is sometimes that can happen so quickly that we will have, you get your deed, you get everything done by the time settlement's done. Everything's done. It's really neat.
And then once it's recorded, what happens with the money?
Then the payoff. So again, soon as that's a good question, John. Soon as we record, then we can disperse the money. In Virginia, that's the law. You have to be recorded first in Virginia before you can disperse, and then we wire the money out. We give folks a head up. Your money's been wired. Right. Heads up, The money goes to the Federal Reserve, goes through them, and then it goes to the banks, hits your account.
Right, right. So funds are dispersed.
Correct.
The technical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Disbursement of funds.
And then it's finished.
It's done. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
File goes away, and
We save them. Yeah.
yep. New buyer moves into their house. The seller moves on, and everybody's happy.
And then what we're seeing now is they're coming back 4 or 5 months later because the interest rates have been so low. They're refinancing.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
we're seeing clients who bought and refinancing sometimes within 6 months or less. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's good for them.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that, Ed. And I think if anybody has any questions, email them in. We'll certainly get the answers out to you who are listening. So let's go back to the survey.
Okay.
Because that kind of ties into the title search, right? So a title search and a title review by an engineer is going to show everything that you can't see, right? It's
True.
going to show all the legally recorded encroachments on the property. But an actual field survey, you brought up the fence, is going to show a fence that's on somebody's property. It'll show a shed that is built over the property line. I've even seen pools
Yes, we both
built over property lines. You mentioned before we actually turned on the mics earlier, you mentioned somebody built a pool
Right over
top
Washington gas easement.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in one
Yeah.
second. So the actual survey, and you said it's optional.
Correct.
And what percentage of people are getting a survey or not getting a survey? What's
I think it's very smart to get one. It's their decision. We're seeing now, I'd say maybe 10%, which is surprising to me, who don't want them.
Yeah.
I don't understand why. For just a few $100s up to maybe $1,000, depending upon the lot size,
Right.
if you want staked, you're spending these homes like the homes you sell. I mean, you're spending $1 million plus on a home or whatever you're spending. Why wouldn't you do that?
Right.
Right.
Well, I think what happens is that you're a buyer and you're not used to being in this kind of a transaction.
True.
And you start looking at all these fees, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting feed to death here. You know, do I have to pay all these fees? And then maybe a real estate professional or somebody says, well, this survey is optional. Okay, I don't want it. Yeah. And I think folks are not even thinking about the ramifications of scratching that line. I get it. I totally get it. I've been there where, you know, that $500 or $300 or whatever it is means something. But yeah, it is a really important step.
They can go to rgstitle.com, your listeners, and see how we have it broken down. Everything you need. It's a resource. It's we used to have a home buyer's guide. Remember the days of all those physical binder? We would give out home buyer guide books. Now it's all online. Describe the process.
Very cool. Very cool. So, really interesting story about the pool over the gas line easement, because interestingly enough, I see a lot of surveys that say right on the survey that this survey was prepared without the benefit of a title report. I see that a lot. Wow. Okay. So if you get a survey and it says it was prepared without the benefit of a title report, and that survey shows a pool on it, and there's a Washington gas easement, which is a scenario you had. So tell us about that. So let me just close the loop on that. So the Washington gas easement would have been discovered in the review of a title report by an engineer. Right?
Right. Or someone
by the survey. Right. And the surveyor is an engineer, by the way. So if a surveyor's that's a civil engineer that's doing the survey. If they have the title report and there's a Washington gas easement, they're going to put the Washington gas easement on there, which is exactly what happened in your story about the pool. So tell us what happened.
So the person, this large home in a nice neighborhood, had a nice deck and pool, and it was over the easement. Washington Gas say, hey, you got to pull that out.
Yeah.
You can't just go think, well, it's my property. I don't need permits. I don't need, right? I don't have to worry about easements. I can just build where I want. People need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that has financial ramifications if they do it wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
So that particular seller had to pay to have the pool removed.
Yeah, it turned. Yeah, it was part near the pool and the deck. All of it ripped out.
And then what did the buyer? Didn't the buyer buy the house because they wanted the pool and the deck?
Good question. Well, that's another story.
Okay, for another day.
Yeah, another day.
All right. So The interesting thing here is folks are probably thinking, well, how in the world could they put a pool in if there's a gas line going through the back of the house? And the answer to that question is just because Washington Gas has an easement across your property doesn't mean there's a gas line there.
Absolutely.
And that's where people get hurt in new construction.
Excellent.
That's a perfect example.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So there's so many I's and T's that have to be dotted and crossed in a transaction like this. And I think the bottom line is if you're working with professionals, if you're working with Stanley Martin Custom Homes, you're working with RGS Title, you're working with a professional group of people, they are good. And really, I think it boils down to experience.
Yeah.
I really think it boils down to experience. And I really appreciate all of the real estate agents that reach out to me because they don't live in the world of new construction. They'll call, John, I don't do a lot of new construction. I'm doing a transaction right here. What do I need to look for? And I'll tell them, Yeah. So working with professionals that understand what they do know, and more importantly, they understand what they don't know so they can get the right details.
Go with John. Don't just go on the internet and research it and think now you're an expert.
Exactly. Well, I see a lot of people do that too. So that's great advice, Ed. Thanks.
Welcome.
Well, listen, Ed, thank you so much for coming. Is there anything you want to add in closing? Any lessons or words of wisdom or?
Go with an expert, ask questions, heed people's advice, and just go enjoy your American dream of owning a home. So.
Ed Shudell, thank you for coming in.
It was a pleasure.
Not the worst cook in America.
Yeah, that's right. But a pretty good driver at the Nürburgring.
Yeah. All right, buddy. See ya.
Yeah, see you. Take care.
Right. Like what you're hearing on the Go With John show? Let us know what you think by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and share this episode with your friends. To sign up for show updates, head to gowithjohn.com to join our list.